Good day, everyone. Today I am going to present my report, and this includes two of the topics, which are administrative planning and individual initiative, and also bureaucratic discipline and professional expertise. Now, in administrative planning and individual initiative, I'll be talking about the following details. The first one is development in the adult learner, organizational and individual needs, preparing an individual development plan, identifying developmental objectives through assessments, and developmental resources and opportunities. Now, to begin with, let's talk about the first bullet detail, which is development in the adult learner. So there are different ways on how people in the organization will be learning information, will be learning the rules and responsibilities and their tasks for each day. They're the following: by doing, through practice, through observation, through imitation, watching and then performing, or through analysis and conceptualization. So as future leaders of an organization, it could be a school, it could be in politics, or it can be in your own business. Future leaders, we are learning information, we're learning things in any of these ways. The next part is about principles of learning. I am actually trying my best to condense all the information in this report because it really is a long reading for me. It is a book, and it took like a long time for me to digest all the information, so I just tried to do this mind mapping. As you can see, I just highlighted some information in bullets, those informations that are really in need of in-depth study. So moving on, we're going to be talking about principles of learning. So what are these? So learning happens inside the learner and is activated by an instructor. Concepts presented must be directly relevant to the learner's needs. Learning results from experiencing. Learning is enhanced if the process is interactive. Learning requires time and patience, so learning requires change. Learning involves the emotions. Each learner has a unique style of learning. So us as future leaders of our future organization, we have to know these principles. As we all know, we are going to manage individual personality, people who are having individual personality, people who are having individual needs, learning needs, and they have also unique talents and skills. So in order for us to initiate proper management in careful imposition of rules and responsibilities in our organization, we have to learn how to implement or have to learn how to practice these principles of learning. The next part is the organizational considerations. Of course, we have to consider the following: organizational mission and goals. We can't just implement rules and regulations without linking it or synchronizing it with our mission and goals in our organization. Of course, with our program plans, we have to consider what are the plans of the organization maybe 5 years later, what are the plans in a longer term planning. So all of these has to be considered. staff learning and development needs. Of course, as I told you a while ago, we are going to be, or hopefully, us future leaders, we're going to manage staffs or people with individual talent, individually unique talent and skills. Of course, we have to. We shouldn't be undermining their capabilities, their skills. Instead, we have to enrich them and support them in order for us to have a perfect and stronger team. Available time and funds for learning and development, of course, that's another consideration, and top management buy-in to learning and development activities. So we can relate this to providing our staffs with different professional development sessions or trainings with them. As we all know, learning is a continuous behavior. It's a continuous process. So we are not supposed to be stuck in the same kind of spectrum, and within that kind of spectrum that we're just so enclosed in that spectrum. So we have to venture out and enhance or develop our organization even more to make it more competitive and also to make it stable, as there are changes along the way, as there could be drastic or gradual changes, so we have to be adaptive to it, as what the book has been, or as what the book has adjusted. Okay, aside from organizational considerations, we also have to consider individual considerations. So we are talking about development needed to improve current performance, development needed which will have an impact on performing current duties in the near future, and development applicable to projected workforce needs in the foreseeable future. So this can actually be done through regular meetings with your staffs, evaluation, and series of sessions, one-on-one sessions with your colleagues, with your staffs, in order for you to know what are the challenges, what are the things or the issues that they've been facing in their daily work, or in their work routine, whatever they're having at work. Okay, so the next topic is going to be about preparing your individual development plan. So IDP is what we call individual development plan. How do we do that? So we have to know first, what does it mean, IDP, or individual development plan? It is a career development tool that may be used to help an employee navigate through their developmental activities, such as formal training, online learning, and developmental assignments. It is reviewed and discussed between the employee and his or her supervisor to ensure that individual needs align with organizational needs. It is not a contract, but rather a roadmap that may change as individual or organizational priorities change. So there are different kinds of goal ranges. It can range from a micro plan, a mini plan, a short range plan, a medium range plan, or a long range plan. So when we're talking about micro planning, it could be like 15 minutes to an hour. Mini plan, it could be a day or a month. Short range, it could be a month to a year. Medium range, it could be a year to 3 years. Or a long range goal planning could be 3 to 5 years. Now, how are we going to set the goals? Of course, we have to know the elements when we talk about setting goals. These are the following. It should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. it should have a time frame, of course. So in goal selection, we have different ways of doing it. So we have vertical, we have lateral, we have realignment, we have exploratory research, we have job enrichment, and relocation out of the organization. Now, if we talk about vertical, it talks about moving to the next higher position. When we talk about lateral, it talks about moving across functions. Now, if we talk about realignment, it talks about moving to a lesser position in the organization. If we talk about exploratory research, it is talking about actively investigating other options. When we talk about job enrichment, it talks about creating more challenge in the present job. When we talk about relocation out of the organization, this is another goal selection way. Also, we consider other commitments such as family, current work schedule, community obligations, and review previous learning experiences, know your organization, and be honest with your self-appraisal. Now, let's talk about advancing your career. How are you going to do that? So, of course, we have to know about the constraints, career constraints, organizational constraints, personality conflicts. So how are we going to deal about each and every constraints that we're going to be facing when we're thinking about advancing our career? So the career constraints mainly is going to be around or within the spectrum of professional constraints. It talks about occupational limits, lack of qualification. So in this case, this is the reason why we're actually doing PhD, we're doing masters, we're finishing them, because we were thinking about our future professional growth, and also for us to fit in and be more qualified in a very competitive organization ahead of us. So of course, there are occupational limits. Like when we talk about occupational limits, it means that not all positions in the organizations are going to be open for everyone, even if you're highly qualified. And most of the time, the one that you're aiming for is occupied as for the moment. So you have to wait for maybe many years in order for you to reach there. And so this limits your promotional aim and targets. Also, we have lack of qualification. Again, as what I told you about embracing the fact of us enhancing our qualification or improving our qualification or upscaling our qualification, we have to have continuous studies. So this is why we're all here, in order for us to upscale our qualification. Another constraint is the organizational constraints. So when you talk about organizational constraints, most probably you're going to be facing promotion freeze and staffing pattern ceiling. So in my case, I had experienced promotion freeze when there was another candidate who was more qualified than I am in academic coordinatorship in my department. So I was aiming for that promotion. I have been undergoing a lot of trainings before, but she is really even more qualified, knowing that she came from a better country, Western country, and she is native, as they see her performance. So her qualification. So I was halted for a bit, and I waited for that position to branch out or has to be emptied, and she will be promoted to the next level in order for me to get the spot. But later on, after a year of waiting, actually was handed over to me. And it was just a very nice experience, just sharing with you guys about it. So also staffing pattern ceiling is also one of the constraints. So sometimes we do entrenchments. We take we kick out staffs if the staff's number are more than what we're expecting, or HR is trying to cut do cost cutting of staff's salary. So maybe the organization cannot hold a bigger number of staffs, or we're overstaffed in the organization. So of course that could also affect if you're going to be one of those who's going to be entrenched from or going to be kicked out from that organization, no matter how qualified you are. And also personality conflicts. This is also one of the constraints in advancing your career. So when you talk about personality conflicts, maybe you have organizational behavioral problems, you don't have good intrapersonal relationship with your colleagues. You need to have that kind of personality that your organization is expecting from you, but unluckily you don't have them. So that could hinder your aim to advance your career. And also promotion paths. So sometimes we change because of the work routine, we tend to change our career paths. Instead of going to continue in a particular direction, we tend to redirect it to another path. And sometimes you are almost there, but you want to change gear and you want to go to another kind of path in your career life. So that could probably be hindering your goal to advance in your career. So what are the helpful tools when developing the IDP? So these are the things that may help us future leaders. Position description, performance plan, list of general and technical competencies, and feedback from supervisors, peers, and customers. So we would talk about position description. We describe the prescribed duties and responsibilities. Performance plan contains elements and performance standards based on position, and of course a list of general and technical competencies. And of course we have to listen to whatever our supervisors, peers, and customers feedback will be rendered to us. Of course, that's also one useful tool. And then I'm going to be talking about identifying developmental objectives. So of course, how are you going to do that? You have to write down your current basic duties, select one duty at a time, and determine the specific competencies required to perform that duty. Determine which competencies you already have versus those who need to develop. Of course, we need to eliminate those competencies you already have. We rank, we prioritize those that are remaining, and also we have to develop our objectives from time to time. Now, in developmental resources and opportunities, the following has to be considered, or the following has to be done in order for each and everyone to have like some sort of a very handful, very informative and educational kind of experience when it comes to organization opportunities and development of resources thingy. So what are these? Classroom training, job rotation, developmental detail, e-learning, computer-based instruction, on-the-job training, self-study, field trips, and also, of course, being a bookworm, improving your reading skills. you have to read a lot. For future leaders like us, we have to know the different guidelines. Uh, these can also be useful guidelines for us to use in our future endeavors as future leaders of our own respective organizations. Let me share you some, although there are a lot of them in the book, but I just cited some of them. The first one is to consider the employee's current job standards, what skills are most necessary, what areas are proficient or less proficient. The next one is to consider organizational needs, current and any potential changes in mission, technology, turnover, staffing needs, future program needs. We also have to consider employees' potential to meet current and projected needs, potential to assume different or expanded responsibilities, assist in developing short and long-range goals and learning activities that support the desired skills to meet goals, and offer suggestions and serve as a resource in conjunction with other co-workers, whether it's in human resource professionals or in the upper management. Now, the next part of my report is about bureaucratic discipline and professional expertise. So let's talk about bureaucratic management first before going into that particular part of my report. In order for us to have to refresh our memory, what do you mean bureaucratic management? So the bureaucratic management structure is one of the three types of management under the classical school. Weber, its father, was criticized managers of running organizations like a family. He believed that such informalities inhibited the potential success of the organization because power was misplaced. He thus believed in a more formalized, rigid structure of an organization. So this presentation seeks to critically examine the advantages and disadvantages of bureaucratic structure in schools, because all of us are going to be future leaders of our educational organizations. So I just want to point out this part of bureaucratic structure in schools. Okay. Now, in order for us to know how important bureaucratic management structure is, I have cited some of the advantages here. The first one is central authority in bureaucracy makes it effective in organizing. It supports the hiring of specialized officials. It follows standard operating procedure. It sets no room for favoritism. It allows for merit-based hiring and promotion, and it plays an important role in policy making. Talking more about advantages of bureaucracy. For Weber, this is from the book, the modern bureaucracy had the advantages of efficiency, predictability, and equity. Studies of bureaucracy in relatively poor countries have shown that no number of rules prevents corruption. However, in public administration and government, the Weberian bureaucracy remains the preferred model, mainly because its insistence on rule following and formality is seen as a necessary protection against discrimination and prejudice. It protects employees from unfair rulings from leaders, which gives a greater sense of security to the employees. Unlike how we see bureaucratic management or structure in the Philippines, this is actually how bureaucracy works in other countries. But I'm not really sure why the word bureaucracy in the Philippines has been having a bad connotations in there. But here we have hierarchy of power, even in our organization, because this school is a university. It's a very big, it's a huge university. It's a huge institution, and we're practicing modern bureaucracy here. We have hierarchy of positions, but as far as I know, um, we are we are actually we the staffs are actually well respected by our higher ups. We are having, as what it is being told here, we are given a greater sense of security to our work, at work, I mean. Okay, now let's move on. Central authority and bureaucracy makes it effective in controlling and organizing. So advocates for bureaucracy have positive views on having hierarchy in an organization. They say that since there is a chain of command, there will be specific rules and tasks for people involved in the departments. This way, management will be able to monitor the performance of the people in lower ranks. Also, with strict regulations and policies that need to be observed, there is a big possibility that duties will be carried out in a systematic and timely manner. Following these set of rules before decision making ensures choices and steps are ideal and were selected. Bureaucracy creates an opportunity for employees to become specialists within one specific area, increasing the effectiveness and efficiency in each area of the organization. With so much management, bureaucratic structures have strong boundaries. Chains of command are clear, as are expectations and decision-making power. Authority is centralized instead of spread out among employees. Job descriptions are detailed and specialized. Over time, bureaucracies develop many rules to maintain the structure. Management, including educational inspectors and supervisors, can monitor educational outcomes, which lends itself to standard educational products or services and quality control. How effective is bureaucracy or bureaucratic management structure is in a particular organization? It supports the hiring of specialized officials. Supporters of bureaucracy prefer the idea of designating appointed officials who have the educational background and expertise on the agencies or the agency they will assign to. These bureaucrats can also have the training and skills particular to their designation. This ensures these non-elective members know what they are doing and will be able to maximize their knowledge and apply their skills. As a result, tasks are effectively carried out. Another point proponents express in connection with officials having a specialization is the possibility that there will always be solutions to issues, since problems which cannot be handled by an officer will be escalated to an individual who is also competent. So in bureaucratic management structure, creativity and stability are promoted within their respective duties and subtasks. Another advantage, it follows standard operating procedure. The proponents of bureaucracy look at these formalized rules to bring about efficiency and predictability in results. In this setup, officials are to follow instructions and procedures step by step in handling tasks and situations. So in this way, outcomes will be within this specified range. Another useful or positive function of bureaucratic management structure, it sets no room for favoritism. So people in favor of bureaucracy claim that with a regulation and procedure to be followed in order to achieve results, the risk of favoring some individuals over others will be minimal, if not none at all. A scenario mentioned is one of the student applying for a place at a school. So there is a systematic process involved and certain requirements to be met to get an approval. So with skipping a step or one of these requirements lacking, the process will not be able to move forward. So with bureaucracy, all will be treated fairly and will undergo the same procedure regardless of affiliation to any of the officials in a particular agency. Another function or positive function of bureaucracy, it follows for merit-based hiring and promotion. So for a non-elective member of a government agency, he or she should be qualified and passed the qualifying exams from schools, colleges, and other academic institutions to be employed or appointed, as well as climb the hierarchy from ordinary teacher to head teacher. So this means that whoever is appointed has the knowledge, expertise, and skills to handle the job. So no one will be considered simply because he or she is a relative or a friend of a high-ranking official in the agency. So for example, we can have Ms. Konatsa appointed in a position of senior woman on the basis that she is related to the headmaster, and this cannot happen. Another positive function of bureaucracy is it plays an important role in policy making. Although civil servants do not make policies, they gather the data forwarded to the political executive. So they also are responsible for formulating several alternative policies and determine the pros and cons of each. So in turn, the political executive will choose one policy which will then be used as an alternative. So say for example, Ichavor notes that teachers are not involved in the curriculum planning, so one can agree that somehow they determine the pros and cons of the curriculum issues. Now, citing the positive functions of bureaucratic structure, management structure, there are also disadvantages of having bureaucratic management structure. So I can mention 4 of them. It can hamper achievement of results in time. It breeds boredom and can affect productivity. It results to passive and role-based human beings, and it can result to efficiency. Now let's talk each and every disadvantages. So the first one, it can hamper achievement of achievement of results. So critics are arguing that with the certain steps needed to carry out tasks and the need to follow a chain of command to proceed, lots of time can be lost, especially if decisions and results are needed immediately. So if a school is run by bureaucrats and there is a chain of command, a certain decision like expelling a deviant pupil can result to unfavorable outcomes, since an action cannot be carried out without different personalities or officials in the hierarchy have approved such. So this makes the process slow, according to the proponents. Another disadvantage, it breeds boredom, low morale, and can affect productivity. Opponents are criticizing the repetitive tasks and specialized jobs. They claim that in time it can bore members of the organization or agency. They added that even in a school which uses bureaucracy, employees might not be able to withstand doing the same work daily. So the routine might just be too much from them and may result to absenteeism and less productivity. So it is difficult to determine who is responsible for having made the decision, creating a feeling of powerlessness amongst employees. The next one, it results to passive and role-based human beings. So another disadvantage being pointed out by some people who do not like a bureaucratic structure say that the strict rules and regulations imposed in bureaucracies seem to remove the freedom of an individual to act and discern on his or her own because of certain restrictions. So this, according to some scholars as Merton, is not beneficial at all. And it can result to inefficiency. So in bureaucracy, there is less competition since hiring and promotion is based on merits and qualifications. So moreover, once a teacher is appointed, he or she has a fixed salary, works in specialized tasks, and cannot function outside the sphere of department he or she belongs to. So some people see this as unproductive and a disadvantage because it can demoralize civil servants who belong in a bureaucracy. There is diffusion of responsibility and subsequent refusal to make a decision. So for example, to get something done, you need 6 different approvals in 6 different forms, and each refusing to give approval until the other 5 have given theirs. Teachers take care of their pupils. This is another example, or another scenario. Teachers take care of their pupils and don't consider larger organizational issues. So head of departments oversee their teachers but don't concern themselves with issues involving the other staff. Next is about lack of maneuverability. So the very bureaucracy of tall structures prevents schools from maneuvering quickly. Changes in procedure must move through the chain of command for approval, perhaps being signed by several officers, then travel back down the chain of adoption. It is in a stable environment such as this one, such rigidity is not an issue. In volatile situations, though, this inability to quickly change directions can present real problems. It cannot suddenly just dodge competitive threats. However, as Ron says in his book, we must all suffer one of 2 things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret and disappointment. To continue with that particular issue, it says from the book that organizational structure is too inflexible to effect necessary changes efficiently. It is so difficult to determine specific individual contribution to successful patient learner based outcome. The bottom or the top bottom hierarchy does not utilize specialized lower level to make decisions in their field of specialty. Over-specialization makes individuals not aware of larger consequences of their actions, not allowing people to use common sense, as everything must be as is written by the law. And there is rigidity, making decision-making slow or even impossible when facing some unusual case, and similarly delaying change and evolution. So the bureaucratization of schools make it difficult to instigate appropriate and immediate change when it is required by the changing needs of a society. So in theory, bureaucracies are meritocracies that improve efficiency, ensure equal opportunities, and increase efficiency. In reality, some individuals benefit from structural privileges and social origins like a dominant race, language, or culture to which some individuals may not have access. I can give you some examples. So these are the examples I actually just made up. Okay, example scenario about how it's actually 2 ways. You can see it advantageous, or you can see the disadvantage of bureaucracy in these examples. Let me know about your thoughts. So an example scenario here: schools are environments structured around hierarchy, standardization, and specialization of certain skills. The structural rules and protocol of the bureaucratic school can marginalize groups that have not undergone cultural immersion or sufficient socialization into a society's value system. So these groups are more likely to experience institutional discrimination in the bureaucratized school system. So micro-level aggression can be subtler than outright discrimination like racial slurs. So for example, understanding the English language is a valuable skill in Zimbabwean society. So a child that grew up in a household where English is not the spoken language might have more problems comprehending English vocabulary in primary school than other students from English-speaking households. So in a former Group A, classroom teachers might discriminate against the student by interacting with the students as if he or she were less capable than his or her peers of learning course material. Another example could be a child raised on the cultural values of silence and obedience who enters a course dependent on argumentative and talkative students for classroom discussions. So the teacher and the child's peers might discriminate against the child in micro-level interactions based on assumptions that the child does not have anything intelligent to contribute or does not want to actively participate in classroom learning. Since the bureaucratic system of the school is modeled for the dominant group and its cultural values, these hypothetical examples might lead teachers to place students with different social origins than the dominant group in remedial courses or slower learning tracks. Okay, let me know your thoughts about the report that I just presented to you. These are the references where I took my report from. This concludes my report. Thank you for listening and have a good day.